Hey friends, as some of you already know, I like to take a break from crime details here and there to talk about the lighter subject of royal drama. And much like my previous theory that Meghan Markle got her entire personality from Suits, I think she's pushed Harry to try and be a real life Harvey Spector, and it's left Harry a disaster. Because Harvey Spector is fiction, and I don't think anyone who watched that show believed that the legal moves he made in the fictional show are something that could be pulled off on a regular basis in real life, except perhaps Meghan. Harvey's signature phrase in the show's Suits was something like, "Don't play the law, play the man." He used manipulation and psychodrama, all kinds of wild tactics to intimidate the other players into a loss. Because again, it's fiction that made for great drama in the show. I am someone who really liked Suits. I was a fan of the show. And whenever Harry and Meghan's engagement was first announced, my first thought was, oh, great, wonderful. I like Meghan. She is an actress and doesn't seem to act a fool in the media or anything. Well, she sure turned that around on me. So, anyway, Harry seems to have begun trying this, imagining himself Prince Harry, the legal dragon slayer, going after his personal dragon of the British media. In the 5 years since Megxit, Harry increased his own security risk dramatically by choosing to detail just how many Taliban fighters he killed while in the army in his memoir. Most any veteran from any army in the world will tell you that this is frowned on for many reasons. One being, if you're a person with any kind of public platform, revealing such information will always make you a target for retaliation, especially if the group being referred to, such as the Taliban, is still active and fighting. And for anyone who might be worried about Harry's freedom of speech, let me remind you that Harry says freedom of speech is bonkers.
There's so much I want to say about the First Amendment. I still don't understand it, but it is bonkers.
Harry's confusing dichotomy is part of what annoys people so bad about him. I think most of us absolutely believe that Harry wants his family to be safe. Of course, who wouldn't? He does seem to absolutely love Meghan and his children. But knowing that, why on earth would he go and poke the bear of the Taliban of all things? That's what makes him seem completely calculated and commercial, like he's trying to do things that will intentionally increase his security risk so that the royal family, Charles, might feel pressured to interfere and encourage them to give Harry his security back. He clearly has been betting on that and trying to make Harvey-style moves. Advisors around Harry had to have brought it up to him that there's no way putting his Taliban kill count into a best-selling memoir won't increase his security risk for him and his whole family and spark terrorist plots. But one thing we know about Harry and Meghan is that they cycle through staff at a rate absolutely unheard of, not only among royals, but celebrities in general. And many of those staff who have left their employ have stated that Harry and Meghan absolutely will not take advice on a single thing and always think they know better than absolutely everyone. Again, which sounds like a very Harvey-style way to go about life. Harry can't help himself but be really cringy and reveal his motivation to be a Harvey Spector type and impress Meghan when, in his initial deluge of court cases, Harry had gotten one mediocre partial win, and the statement he put out included this line: "I've been told that slaying dragons will get you burned, but in light of today's victory and the importance of doing what is needed for a free and honest press, it is a worthwhile price to pay. The mission continues."
Is bonkers.
The award he got from the judge in that particular case was a victory judgment of $180,000 after finding that he had been the target of some press intrusion. However, Harry's lawyer is famous and his fees are very widely known, and so everyone was aware that Harry spent way more than that to get there. So it really is obvious that he only did it to be able to say he's a dragon slayer. Also, during each one of these court battles, every time Harry goes on the stand, judges have to admonish him that his feelings about things aren't evidence. And it's also interesting to note that in Harry's statement, He puts an emphasis on wanting an honest press. Him and Meghan hold themselves up as paragons of truth and honesty. While she was making her accusations against Harry's family, she said they would lie to protect others, but they wouldn't tell the truth to protect us. It was very dramatic. Her and Harry prop themselves up all the time as paragons of truth. However, during one of these cases, Meghan had to apologize to the British court for perjuring herself by submitting statements that they never worked with the authors of the pro-Harry and Meghan Finding Freedom book, a book that propped up their narrative, and then evidence was presented in court that she did. Now, because of the extreme privilege that she was given in the UK as a duchess married to a prince of the blood, they simply accepted her apology and moved on as if she hadn't committed perjury. One of her texts that was presented as evidence that she did cooperate with the authors included her telling a personal assistant, "We have to be able to say, hand on heart, that we didn't cooperate." She outlined the lie that they needed to tell as she literally coordinated their cooperation through a personal assistant. So desperate to get out their narrative that they perjured themselves and they got excused due to the privilege that they claimed they never got. This also seems like Meghan trying one of her own Harvey Spector style moves, and she got called out in court. However, due to her extreme privilege, she was also excused. In their latest attempt at legal maneuvering to get what they want, they actually snatched defeat right from the jaws of victory. Royal News watchers will know that for weeks now there have been signs that Charles wants to end the feud and bring them back into the fold. Charles is a softie. He brought Fergie back into the picture before her Epstein exploits were outed, and he wanted to give Harry and Meghan the same treatment. He had a whole plan with all his advisors, and they nicknamed it Project Thaw, to thaw out the relations and get Harry and Meghan back on side. Charles offered them rooms at Buckingham Palace, which would obviously include all the security Harry wanted because it's Buckingham Palace. Commentators who don't like or trust Harry and Meghan were really groaning that Charles was going to put them back into the royal picture. And it seemed like Harry and Meghan were really, with all this Project Thaw business, heading straight into the exact deal that they wanted, the one that the Queen denied them, a half-in, half-out arrangement with the royal family heading them back to Buckingham Palace. Harry's been giving signs in the last couple years as well that he wants to reconcile things. He walked back his claims that they were racist after accepting an award for standing up to institutional racism. And considering they'd confirmed that they were all the whole family coming to London, it seemed like he was starting to accept that he's not going to get full-time working royal security anymore and that he wanted to come to a reasonable place about it with his family. So staying in Buckingham Palace, where he would have automatic security, seemed like a reasonable compromise to most people. And I still wonder a little if maybe he did feel that way, and Meghan said no, because now we're hearing rumors that the royal family requested that Meghan sign an NDA that she wouldn't reveal anything that happened during the visit, nor do commercial opportunities. There was a point last week where it was reported everywhere that Charles had a very rare eat and sleep, like a freaking sleepover with his brothers and sisters at one of the royal residences so that they could have a family meeting, a dinner, supposedly about Harry and Meghan. Maybe that's when the NDA was decided, because it was right after that that everything blew up about this trip. Harry complains all the time that his family briefs the press on family matters, but it was revealed last week that he and Meghan have a secret WhatsApp group specifically to brief their chosen reporters. These selected journalists were told last week from Harry and Meghan's team directly that Meghan and the kids were going to be going to London with Harry next week and staying at a royal residence. And since it came directly from their official channels, those reporters ran with the information as any reporter would do. It seems like those reporters were chosen because they might have been in on Project Thaw, because they began really talking up the possibility of Charles bringing Harry and Meghan back into the fold, making them part-time working royals, and some even went so far as to say, yes, they're coming back and the public's just got to get used to it. Not so fast, not so fast. Those reporters have egg on their face now and felt compelled to reveal that they said this because Harry and Meghan's team directly told them through the secret WhatsApp briefing group. And it's understandable that they felt like they had valid information because it came directly from Harry and Meghan. However, it's not likely that any reporter, even at the ones that were in on Project Thaw, are going to trust Harry and Meghan's brief about their own plans anymore after this. Flip-flops and U-turns and chaos and drama like this is all what drives their popularity and approval ratings constantly down, because actions like this have become such a pattern with them, and people don't like feeling like they can't trust a public figure not to U-turn all the time. Generally, in public life, one or two big U-turns is about all an audience will tolerate, and they need to be for a dang good reason. Another of Harry and Meghan's famous U-turns is that when Archie was born, they put out an announcement that they wouldn't be giving him a title, basically because they're above all that nonsense. But then once they decided to leave the palace grounds, leave the royal fold, they switched it all up and said the royals didn't want to title them because they're racist. Now, the blatant truth is we know that some of the royal family is racist. Prince Philip was famous for spouting off things that had racist tones sometimes, or classist, overtly sexual at the very least. But the only one that has been known to publicly display certain symbolage that I'll put up here and not describe because YouTube doesn't like us using those words, the only one that's actually went that far in the modern generation of royals, because, as anyone will know, Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson, Edward abdicated to marry a divorced American, a lot of parallels there, and they actually became friends with Hitler. And Harry is the only one in the modern times who has went almost that far by actually showing out in public wearing that sort of symbolism. And he's the one Meghan chose to marry. Interesting, huh, friends? Now, there's also a very real possibility that Meghan might have been treated with some classist snobbery in the palace because she's an American, she's a divorcee, an actress. A lot of parallels to Wallace Warfield Simpson there, and that did not go well. And then if you think about it too, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the disgraced former prince, treated Kate Middleton horribly whenever William first started dating her before she became Princess Catherine, because her family wasn't from the aristocrat class. Even though she was white, English, and rich, she wasn't posh enough for him. So she got treated horribly by Andrew and a few other people in the family. Meghan was lucky she got the welcome that she did, and apparently she wants that treatment back. According to Rob Shooter's reporting, they requested full royal protocol for their visit in addition to security. They wanted the optics of the treatment to look like William and Catherine's. And that's part of Meghan's image problem. She says that this whole institution is racist, treated her terribly. In their Netflix special, they had a guy on who called the Commonwealth Empire 2.0. But now, all of a sudden, they want the titles and the pompery, and they don't believe that there's any reason why they should have to let it go. And anyone who says, hey, if it's that bad, why don't you just let all that go, is being mean to them, is maybe they're being racist, kind of thing. You can't win with those people because they're playing a game. They're not being sincere. They're playing a game. The Oprah interview was absolutely their attempt at a Harvey Spector style play that they hoped would turn out very differently than what it did. Meghan spoke of telling Harry that he didn't have to just accept what is, he can change it. And it seems like Harry believed her. His latest move to change things was to plan the trip announced that he was staying in a royal residence and that Charles would be spending time with his grandkids. He assumed Charles would nudge Ravek to provide the security that Harry demands in order to not appear cold to the children. And although he's a softie, Charles is about fed up with Harry's manipulation, and he is trying hard not to interfere with government duties that are outside of his scope. He wasn't great at that in his early years as Prince of Wales. He's had to learn that. Now, Harry's narrative is that he just assumed, since he requested a Ravek review of his need for security in March, that it would be done by now and he would get security, and he only just learned he wouldn't. I don't know how it could be more clear that he attempted a strategy, a move here that failed. He was attempting to apply pressure. There's no way he didn't check with Ravek obsessively and know that it hadn't been done yet. Now, we know Harry definitely watched some of Suits whenever him and Meghan first got together. We know that because he said that he saw some of her X scenes in the show and needed electroshock therapy to get it out of his head. But I think he started thinking, when Meghan told him he could change his life, that he could pull Harvey moves and impress her. And the thing is, within a monarchy, that's not really an option. You can't change the status you're born with to a different one unless you're abandoning the status. All you can do is accept it and work within it, or abandon it. Harry chose to abandon it and thought it would still allow him to retain that same status he was born with, but that didn't happen. And now he's desperately trying to remind his family, the British High Courts, and the rest of the world that he was born a beloved prince. So yesterday, July 7th, 2026, Harry received a judge's ruling from the Royal Court of Justice in Britain that all claims of his expensive litigation against the Daily Mail had failed. No evidence for the claims, just emotion, and judgments are likely to come while Harry and the others will be on the hook for tens of millions in legal fees for the winners of the case, which is the Daily Mail. Harry immediately used that bonkers freedom of speech of his to attack the judge, accuse him of whitewashing the trial and ignoring evidence. He even had the absolute cringy lack of self-awareness to say it seems like there's one rule for the claimants and another for the newspapers. He says that with no self-awareness whatsoever of the fact that he has been harassing the government over the fact that he was a born prince of the blood and still deserves to be given security funded by the British taxpayers, which is afforded to the position he abandoned. His entire argument there is he's a born royal and always will be. Therefore, there has to be a different rule for him than for anyone else. And he doesn't see the irony of him saying it seems like there's one rule for the newspaper and another for the claimants. At the end of the day, I really just wish Harry would get his head on straight and quit allowing himself to be jerked around, acting a fool, causing chaos all the time, because he's Princess Diana's youngest son, and I'm an OG fan of Princess Diana. She wasn't perfect either, but I loved her. I thought she was wonderful. And I do think if Diana was here, she would have talked some sense into Harry long before now. But I want to know what y'all think about all this. Let me know in the comments. Am I being too hard on Harry and Meghan, or do you agree? Do you think I'm not being hard enough on them? Let me know, friends. We'll go out with a palate cleanser, and I hope everyone's having a good day.